Space. Notif
Hey, what's going on, everybody? So in this video, we're going to look at a little bit of a workflow with Visual Studio Code and NVDA Screen Reader. So I know a lot of people like JAWS Screen Reader. A lot of people use it. I mean, I was an avid user of JAWS, but I have to let you know that um, I made my decision to move to NVDA Screen Reader because JAWS, once I got into a real world situation where I had to work with a team of developers and collaborate, read code and have them read my code, um, I and to be able to keep pace, JAWS and Notepad++ and even Notepad were not efficient enough for this. It was um, very frustrating. So the first thing that led me to Visual Studio Code was because Notepad and Notepad++, I could not format my code like other editors would let you, as well as other team members. They could develop and format their code automatically with their IDE or text editor, and I was not able to do that. If I did, I had to do it manually. So what I done was is I went to Visual Studio Code and I used it with JAWS and immediately found that it was not it wasn't going to work. So I, I got to doing some research into Visual Studio Code behind accessibility, especially because it can be used 100% with only a keyboard. You do not need a mouse for Visual Studio Code. So when I got to looking into this, I saw that they actually tested and developed the accessibility part of Visual Studio Code with NVDA Screen Reader. So this is when I made the switch. I was a little timid at first because, like most people, I was very comfortable with JAWS and really could not see how a free open source screen reader was going to outdo a um, licensed, software that was very expensive. And I gave it a shot. I saw that some of the basic commands on NVDA were basically the same as JAWS, just had to learn how to review and do mouse clicks and things like that. But I immediately saw a difference with NVDA and Visual Studio Code. I could do the basic. I could write code. I could download extensions. I can format my code and have in what's called IntelliSense and things like that, just to be able to help me um, increase productivity, especially in a timely manner. That's the biggest deal when it comes to being able to develop and compete and keep up pace in the real world environment of development. So what I want to show you is a little bit of my workflow with Visual Studio Code and NVDA. So the first thing I want to do is slow down this screen reader.
NVDA menu. Preferences submenu. Settings dot dot dot. S.
So we'll go to settings,
NVDA settings colon. General left paren. Speech 2 of 14.
speech.
Speech change dot voice colon rate colon 60 70
So
69 60 66
we'll go to
65
65 for now.
OBS 60.
All right, so the next
Note
thing is we're going to open up. So I'm going to kind of show you the advantages of having Visual Studio Code and being able to work in it as a developer. So that you lose a lot when you're not able to use the a tool like this for development. So, and this is again with NVDA Screen Reader. Now we're going to open up Visual Studio Code. So I'm actually going to do this in I have a development server using XAMPP. So we're going to go into there.
Run dialog.
So my windows are to run, and that's C
colon slash A M P P slash T.
All
Desktop
right.
list.
It's
Docs window.
examp slash htdocs. So
API check 2.
I'm gonna get in development.
D. Dashboard check 5. D. Development.
Okay.
Items view list.
Now in here,
Melissa.
just up air and down air to kind of get some a selection. So now I can press Control Space.
Space. Not
And
select.
that'll deselect. I'm just going to Applications key, W, and then T for text.
T. Development window. Items view list. New text.
Now, what we're going to do here, well, I tell you what, we're actually going to get out of this. Now,
Test. New text document.
we're going to delete that, and we're going to make a new directory. So that's a folder.
F.
And what we're going to do is call it YouTube.
YouTube check.
All right, so
YouTube.
in YouTube, we're going to open up Git Bash, and I'm gonna, this is the terminal I use.
Context menu.
Well, we'll just make it, we'll
Folder.
go ahead and just make
T.
a text document in here. And all I did there was Applications key, press W to get into New submenu, and then press T for text document. You want to highlight, Control A, so all of this,
Text select.
even the extension,
Blank.
because we're going to change that. And we're going to look at an HTML file, so test.html.
Rename dialog.
And yes, we know.
YouTube.
And that's just a rename, letting us know if we change the file extension, it may become corrupted, but again, there's nothing in there. So we're going to make another file.
Space. Folder F. T.
And this file is going to be test.js.
Test.
And that's going to be a, oh, see, I didn't select the
test.js.text check
extension, so you hear it's a test.js.text. That's also going to make it a
modified. Type edit text document.
So we don't want that. Let's change that. So we'll Applications key,
rename M.
rename,
YouTube
go to the end, delete the txt dot, and press enter.
Rename dialog.
And then yes.
YouTube window.
Okay,
Test.
so
Test.
here's the benefits. We have a test.html and a test.js. What we're going to do is we're going to build just a quick little, just a starter for HTML, and then bring in the JS file and just, we'll probably insert some text into a div. So what we can do is deselect the file right here so we have focus on this actual folder, the YouTube folder.
Space.
So we do that with Control Space, and then we press our Applications key.
Context menu.
And you can do one of two things. You can up arrow till you get to open with Visual Studio Code, or you can press I to open it there. Now, if you downloaded Visual Studio Code and you did not select to have it to be able to open directories in your context menu, you're going to need to press H or down arrow till you hear open with, and then open it with Visual Studio Code. So for me, I'm just going to press I.
YouTube window. Visual Studio Code. Document blank. Application. Main landmark. Section.
Okay, so we'll let
Info:
this open up.
You have Windows subsystem for Linux left.
Okay, so we get some messages when we open up Visual Studio Code. Now I have extensions installed. It also can sense whenever there's something development related downloaded on your system. So first things first, let's check our notifications. We can do this by, so we have Visual Studio Code. I'll just call it VS Code. We have VS Code focus. So what we want to do now is press F6.
Status bar.
Okay, you get your status bar. Now we can down arrow and up arrow through this. So let's do that.
No problems button.
So we hear no problems. That's just like a little error message.
I-closed compile hero : off button, tweet feedback button, notifications button.
All right, so we come to notifications, and I'll get a video looking through the rest of this, but for now, we're just going to press enter on notifications.
Notifications list.
So it puts us in a list, so we can down arrow and up arrow through this.
You have Windows subsystem for Linux left paren, WSL right paren, installed on your system.
Okay, so it's letting me know that I have this WSL2 installed on my system, which is just for another application called Docker, and it wants to it wants me to it's asking if I want to download the associated extensions for this system. So I don't want to do that right now. So what I'm going to do, this is the only notification. We can actually press enter, press tab,
Install button. Install.
and you get an install button.
Show recommendations.
You can show recommendations, and I'm just tabbing through this.
Notification actions toolbar.
And it brings us back around notification actions.
Clear notification left paren. Delete right paren.
And we can clear, which is just to remove it, and that's what we're going to do.
The extension tick formatter hero dash beautify sass slash less slash scss slash typescript slash javascript slash jade slash pug tick took a very long time to complete its last operation, and it has prevented other extensions from running. Comma notification dialog.
Okay, so we got this notification as well. Now this is just whenever an extension loads up and it doesn't load correctly.
Show extensions button.
So we can show extensions.
Show issues button. Show.
Or we can show issues.
Notification action.
And
show the extension tick.
I tell you what we'll do. We'll show issues. So we'll press enter on show issues.
Visual Studio Code dialog. Did you attach the CPU dash profile question? This is a reminder to make sure that you have not forgotten to attach tick c:\users /kblack /appdata /local /temp /uscats.qf unresponsive.profile.text tick to an existing performance issue. OK button.
So it's just talking about pug. I need to put it in the system, but I'm not going to worry about that. But
welcome YouTube.
That shows you how you can kind of see that. Now, a command to actually open to see your files in the directory or the folder that you have opened up in Visual Studio Code, you can press Shift Control E as an echo. Let's get that open. Get out of this. And then
complementary landmark. Files Explorer.
All right, so that's our File Explorer. We can up arrow and down arrow through this.
Test.html 1 of 2 level 1.
And you hear 1 of 2.
Test.js 2 of 2 level 1.
And 2 of 2. So test.html and test.js. All right, so let's up arrow.
Test.html 1.
Test.html. We'll press enter on this.
Selected.
All right, so we get into this file and it immediately puts our focus into the editor. Now, one of the advantages of Visual Studio Code is instead of having to type out the starter code to build basically just the skeleton of an HTML5 document, we can actually use something that's built into Visual Studio Code, and I tell you what, I'll make sure to link some information about it in the description below, but right now I can't think of it. It's been a while since I've heard the name of it, but I can tell you what, if you press Shift Shift 1, which will give you an exclamation mark.
Bang. Suggest list.
And NVDA calls it bang, and it calls apostrophes tick, and that's just the language it uses. So we can press tab now.
Test.html.
All right, so if I go to the top of the page,
less bang doc type HTML greater.
First thing you hear is a declaration for HTML5 document. And if we down arrow,
less HTML lang equals quote end quote greater.
So you hear the starting tags for the HTML element itself.
Less head greater.
And then we come into our head.
4 space less metachar set equals quote.
And it puts this metadata all in this head information in here for us that's custom. It's just default.
Less meta name equal less title greater document less slash title.
And we hear our title, so we can actually take this title.
Line feed title greater document.
And we're going to change it. So to navigate to it, I just go. I'm on it the line. And I press in.
Line feed.
And I can hold down control and press left arrow.
Title greater less slash.
So that brings me to the beginning of title greater.
Document less slash.
And then now we're at the beginning of document. So now we can just shift control right arrow.
Document less slash selected.
And that's going to select document less than slash. We can let go of control and keep shift held down and then press left arrow twice.
Slash less unselected.
That'll take away the selection there. We'll just press backspace or delete.
T.
And that's going to delete document. So now if we read the current line with the number 8 on your numpad.
Less title greater less slash title greater.
All right, so we hear that it's empty now, and our focus is still in between these the title tags. So we're going to type our title.
U T.
So we'll actually
selected.
VS Code and NVDA screen reader. Okay, so we've got
less title greater testing VS Code and NVDA screen reader less slash.
Now below this,
No indent less slash head greater.
we end our head tag, but normally you would have like your JavaScript and your fonts and your CSS.
Less body greater.
Okay, so we come to our body tag.
4 space blank.
Now you hear it says 4 spaces whenever I go into an element, and then when you hear the element end, it's indented back to the left. So that's a big deal. That's code formatting. So indentions increase readability. So that's a big thing, and is widely, it's a common practice. So you definitely want to be able to do it, and you definitely want to be able to automate it because it can be tedious. So
no indent less body greater. 4 space.
Now if we sit here in between these body tags, 4 spaces indented, I can press the end key to get to the end of this line, and now we're gonna another thing built into Visual Studio Code, the same thing as Shift 1. We can type div and then the number sign, so Shift 3, and then we can, that's gonna identify that we want a div tag with the ID, and then we're going to type root, and then we're just going to press tab.
Test.html.
Now if we read our current line,
less div ID equals quote root quote greater less slash div greater.
Okay, you hear that it actually put that in for us and automated that task.
Line feed.
Now it puts your cursor in between the where it needs to be to start typing in between these tags. However, I like to go to the end and just get in them myself.
less.
And then that just ensures that I'm where I need to be before I type a bunch of stuff. So we're not going to put anything in here. We're actually going to include our test.js file now. So if we go to the end of this line and press enter, we can now type less script,
less script space,
and then sr, so less script space, and then src. It's going to be our attribute, and it's going to equal a value, and the value is a string, so we put it in quotes. And
suggest list.
And here's another thing too. When you type a quote, it automatically puts 2. That way, so you always have your ending quote. And same thing with parentheses, and braces and brackets. So in between these quotes, if you listen clearly, I'm just going to type T E
test.html 1 of 2.
And you hear that it automatically gives me these options because it knows the file system. So if I down arrow
test.js 2 of,
I hear test.js and press enter on that.
Test.html edit.
Now I haven't finished, but if I read the line,
less script src equals quote test.js quote.
So test.js quote, you hear that. Now
line
if I simply just type a greater than sign to close this, you'll hear
less script src equals quote test.js quote greater less slash script greater.
It finished it for me. So it went ahead and put less script or less slash script greater to end this tag. So now that we've included this JS file, we're going to go to our JS file with Shift Control E.
Complementary
and down arrow.
Test.js 2 of,
and then press enter.
Selected.
Now in this file, we're going to simply pick up that root element and the div and store it in a variable, and then we are going to just do a dot enter HTML and then put some HTML in there, so or just some text. So what we're going to do is first we're going to say const, so const t and space, and we're just going to say root element
space
equals
space,
and then we're going to use the document object, so document. Now listen.
Test.js editor has autocomplete multi-line const root element equals docu. Suggest list. Document 1 of 8.
Alright, so it gives me that suggestion document, so I can actually just press enter and it will just go ahead and write document. Now I'm working into it and they're looking into it now to figure out how to make that repeating go away where it reads the title and then the line, but for now that's what we got. So it doesn't always do that though. So we're gonna now type period, so
dot
because it's going to be document dot, and then we're going to get element by ID, but we can actually just say get
G-E-T suggest list. Get animations for.
All right, so we get our suggestions list. Now this is going to be some things that we can do that start with get. Now if we down arrow,
Get element by ID 14.
you hear get element by ID. If we press enter,
Test.js
it'll automatically put that in. Now we put our parentheses.
left paren.
If I just do left parenthesis, quote,
Quote.
now if I read the line,
Const root element equals document dot get element by ID left paren. Quote quote right paren.
all right, you hear that it put the quote in the right parenthesis. It ended it for me. Now here's the code formatter. If I press shift, and this is an extension I'll go over in another video, shift alt F.
Made one formatting edit.
Made one formatting edit. Now what it done was is it put a semicolon at the end of this line, because every statement in JavaScript has to be ended with a semicolon. So
Line feed semi.
you hear that it actually put put something that I would have, that a lot of people make a common mistake of leaving that out. So if I left arrow back in between these quotes,
Right quote.
I can put the ID, which is root.
T.
All right, so now I've actually stored this object in a variable, so I can access properties and methods on this object.
Line.
So if I go to the end of the line and press enter, and if I type if I just start typing root,
T. Suggest list. Root element for.
you actually hear that it suggested that variable that we created, the name. We press
Test
enter, so it fills it out for us. Now if we type dot enter,
N-E-R. Suggest list.
you'll hear this.
Enter HTML 14.
Enter HTML, that's a suggestion, that's what we're looking for. We press enter.
Test.js
Space equals space quote. Again, it's going to finish those quotes, and then I can just start typing. So we can say, this is my example. All right, period.
Dot.
And then if I just shift alt F,
Made one formatting.
makes that one format edit. So what that is I didn't put the semicolon at the end of this line, so it does it for me. So now we can actually save this, and if we so what we'll do is we'll open this up in Google Chrome now. So I'll go to my start menu and type in Google.
Oh. New tab dash Google Chrome dash Keith. Address web advisor.
All right, we'll get the web advisor.
New tab dash.
All right, so I'm using, again, XAMPP as my local development server, so the URL is localhost / and then we're going to get into that YouTube folder, YouTube/test.html. Press enter. Okay, so now if we read,
Heading level 1 not found.
oh, it's not found. Hang on, let me make sure
YouTube row 1
that the directory is correct.
YouTube check 12 of 13. Tic-tac-toe checked 11 of 13.
Oh, development, then YouTube. That's right.
Address
so
and
if we go
search
in our address bar,
test.youtube/y.
so it's a development.
P.
MENT.
Slash 404.
I gotta.
Heading level 1 not found.
I gotta spell
Address
it right.
and search. YouTube development slash unselected. D-E-V-L-P. Localhost/development/YouTube/test.html. Localhost.
Well, I gotta get the
Localhost/.
It's localhost.
Locus selected.
Yeah, localhost / development/YouTube/test.html. Pretty sure.
Localhost/ local view address and search blank localhost/
Nope, that is not right. Hang on. All right, let's get in
development
here.
check 6 of 20.
Yep, that's correct.
Items view list.
YouTube. That's correct.
Test.js check. Test.html. Right.
Test.html.
Localhost/development.
All right, let me make sure that the
YouTube
server's up and
test.js
running.
OBS26 test.
So we'll
Localhost
actually Windows R.
run dialog
We'll go to
C
C:/X
X
XAMPP.
text
Press enter.
XAMPP window.
Now at the bottom
XAMPP
we
XAMPP
have
dash control dot
XAMPP dash control. Press enter.
XAMPP control panel V.
It's gonna open this up. Let's
Services
see.
button. Modules grouping. Admin button. Stop button.
So it's started.
Admin. Stop button.
And that's started. So let's
XAMPP window.
get back to the
Localhost
browser.
Address and search L O A L A L F T D E E L P E F T Y O T U T U O Y Y O U T U B E T E F T dot HTML blank.
Yep, that's it. I wonder why it's not.
Localhost local XAMPP row.
Let me look at this file again. Sometimes I'll move too fast.
Quick input list. Less bang doc type HTML. Less slash HTML. Less 4 space less script src equals quote test.js quote greater less slash script greater. Make less divid equals quote root quote greater less slash div 2 space less body less slash head.
Body's
4
good.
space less title greater testing VS code and NVDA screen reader less slash title greater.
The title's good.
No indent.
Make sure it's
Quick
saved. That could always be a reason.
Testing VS code.
And it sure was. So always make sure you save it. I usually do, and I guess I got a little distracted somehow. So so we saved it, and
testing VS code.
Now if I check my title with the insert key and T.
Testing VS code and NVDA screen reader dash Google.
So you hear our title there. We type that into the head, and then now if we look at our body.
This is my example dot.
This is my example. So that is, and if we actually go back to our JavaScript file.
Quick input list. Less bang doc type H.
And
quick input list. Root element dot inner HTML equals quote this is my example. Inner HTML this.
So if we change this
quote unselected dot
to Keith is my name and save Control S and refresh the page.
Keith is my name.
You hear Keith is my name. Now,
test.
One other reason I like Visual Studio Code, this is pretty cool. So
semi name quote selected space selected.
So let's say
be selected Keith quote selected quote.
Let's say we copied something from a page and we got a little crazy and forgot to do our quote. So let's just say Keith is my name. Now
suggest list.
This will not work. Let's refresh.
Testing blank. All
right, there's nothing on the page.
VS code.
Okay. Now the reason is because it needs to have some type of data type, and right now it's gonna try to read the first one as a constant.
Line semi.
So if we select all of this.
Name selected.
So name
is Keith selected.
So we've got Keith is my name selected, and we just shift quote.
Quote.
Okay, so you would think that it's going to replace that text with the quote, but no. Let's read our line.
Root element dot inner HTML equals quote Keith is my name quote semi.
You hear that it actually took the words we selected and wrapped it in quotes. Now this will work with braces, brackets, and parentheses. So those are just some small reasons why I enjoy using Visual Studio Code and NVDA Screen Reader as a pair. It gives me the ability to work at a very good pace and to use the tools that are available, especially to everyone else who gets to use these tools. So in the next video, or in one of the upcoming videos, I'm definitely going to dive in deeper and show you all of the extensions that I use for Visual Studio Code. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave it a thumbs up. That always helps the algorithm at YouTube. So, and if you're new here, please subscribe. I'm gonna start coming out with videos more often to be more help. So, and if you are already a subscriber, I thank you very much for returning, and I will see you in the next video.
Testing XAMPP Pro OBS2